We're now going to look at 2BP7, explain reasons for maintaining and cleaning, handling and restraint equipment. So first of all, what kind of equipment are we talking about? What kind of equipment might need maintenance? Well, common equipment such as personal protective equipment, sometimes known as PPE, personal protective equipment includes things like overalls, maybe gloves, eye protection, ear protection, possibly protective boots and even a mask. So defective PPE, personal protective equipment, could cause injury to either yourself or the animal that you're handling. Maintenance of PPE, such as the gloves, overalls and eye protection, is essential, especially if you use a lot of the time. Sometimes we say it's used frequently, maybe it's used daily or weekly, and therefore the risk of injury is high because you're using it quite a lot. And so if it's defective in some way, then there's more chance of you getting harmed or the animal getting harmed. So defective PPE might mean that injury to the handler, such as scratches, bites and allergies, etc. By maintaining the PPE and preventing minor injuries such as bites and scratches, it prevents injuries to animals as well that may be injured through being dropped, escaping, needing recapture, excessive restraint, that's where you're having to hold them too tightly or put them under in a situation where they feel anxious. So if your PPE is in good order and you're not likely to be bitten or scratched, then you're safe and less likely to drop them or hold them or prevent them from escaping or put them under excessive restraint. The consideration of safety and welfare of the animals and reducing stress on the animals is also a part of this. So if you're able to handle them properly and securely without too much restraint, then they're not going to get too stressed and too anxious. Less frequently used PPE may be things like ear protection, protective boots and masks. Maybe that's maintained on a sort of less frequent basis. Things like protective boots might be worn if you are moving hutches or vivariums, large tanks or cages that might get dropped and damage your feet. Maybe masks if you're using sawdust all the time. Sometimes inhalation of sawdust can be dangerous, especially if you carry an allergy, but also there's fine dust in the sawdust and also in the paper shavings that we use as well. Ear protection sometimes important just from handling the animals a lot of the time, and also livestock as well that may make loud noises whilst they're being handled and cleaned. Again, important to maintain this equipment, especially for things like livestock animals as well, such as sheep and goats, horses and dogs, because if they're not restrained properly, then they can injure themselves. They become very anxious. They're large animals, and they can cause injury on a larger scale to the handler as well. Sometimes there's animal-specific personal protective equipment, such as sheep pens or dog muzzles and harnesses for the sheep. If you've been out to Acorn Farm, you'll know about using the harnesses on the sheep. And so it's important to make sure that the specific PPE equipment, such as a dog muzzle, is used in case a dog then becomes aggressive and bites, and the harnesses for the sheep so that they feel safe and secure, because if they escape in a close environment, they may become injured or also injure you if they become anxious and try to escape or move quickly around a small pen. Cleaning the equipment, well, cleaning the equipment is very important, as well as various different diseases that you can get. Zoonotic diseases are diseases that can be passed from the animal to you as a handler through bacteria, viruses, funguses or parasites, and this can be serious. So prevention of spread of infection and disease to you as a zoonotic disease will prevent you from being harmed. It's also then important that bacteria isn't then spread from animal to animal via the handler, via you, because then spread of disease can harm a greater number of animals, obviously, if it's spread around the animal care room or within a group of animals. So this could be fatal, I suppose, to some animals if it were a disease that needed to be contained and treated in one animal. Examples of zoonotic diseases that can be passed on include Lyme's disease, which you can get from a tick bite or rat urine. That can be fatal to humans. Salmonella infection, you can get that after handling chickens, ducks, birds, and also the snakes as well. Some of the reptiles will carry salmonella infection. E. coli infection, especially if you touch animals in a zoo, in a farm, etc. Some of the sheep and the goats carry E. coli infection. And you can also catch E. coli infection if you work in a dairy. A cow can pass on E. coli germs via their udders. Particular groups that are susceptible to catching zoonotic diseases, animals passing on diseases to humans, children under the age of 5, pregnant women, adults over the age of 65, so old age pensioners or senior citizens, or anyone with a weakened immune system, so anybody undergoing chemotherapy, say for example, with a weakened immune system. In terms of cleaning the equipment then, gloves and overalls can usually be washed, although sometimes gloves, we may dispose of gloves. Some of the latex gloves we can dispose of, but the gloves and overalls can be put through a high wash, or you can use plastic aprons as well. So either disposable overalls and gloves or put them through a high wash to kill any bacterial infection that might be on them. Accommodation needs regular cleaning to prevent animals from acquiring disease, getting the disease in the first place, or passing on disease either back to themselves or to other animals that might then use that accommodation. And then other problems such as allergies are also important to eliminate, so the handler is not put in any discomfort. And again, you can prevent a lot of these by washing your hands after being around the animals, maybe using some antibacterial lotion as well and soaps, making sure that the accommodation is cleaned with a suitable disinfectant, making sure you're using the correct PPE, and again that's washed, making sure that the room is clear of any dust or any sawdust or any remnants of any bedding, and making sure that the floors and the accommodation is washed thoroughly as well. In terms of disinfectant then that we use, we tend to use Hutch Clear. So a particular brand of Hutch Clean is used to clean the hutches and kills many of the bacteria that we've mentioned, such as Salmonella and E. coli, etc. And also we may bleach some of the cages as well in the vivariums, the glass cages as well. Sometimes we'll use a bleach on that. Got to be very careful with things like snakes and reptiles that are particularly sensitive to chemicals, so we need to wash the vivariums carefully afterwards. But anything that's glass can be washed with water and mild bleach.